So I'm going to talk a little bit about the craft, but not, maybe if you have more questions too about some of the technique that I go over, we can get back into some of those aspects. I imagine a lot of people in the room are makers of sorts, and that's kind of what drew you into the space. But I'll talk kind of more about how combat paper started and what some of the conceptual intent has developed into for me, and specifically why we're making portraits here at the museum over the next 2 weeks. So combat paper began in this place, in Burlington, Vermont. Has anyone ever been there? Yeah, it always looks like this. It's incredible space. That's Lake Champlain. Wonderful, wonderful place to disappear to. I was enlisted into the Army, and after I got back from my time in my tour in Iraq in 2003, I was done with active duty, and I moved to Vermont. And having friends or family, and it was sort of like a chance to figure out what I wanted to do next. And fortunately, I took a workshop in hand paper making at the Community College of Vermont, and it reinvigorated me into this craft that I totally admire and adore, and have been unable to stop doing ever since that workshop in 2004. And my second teacher in hand paper making opened this place, the Green Door Studio Arts Collective. And the foundation around this place was, it's in the basement of an old broom factory in the South End Arts District in Burlington. And it was built around a gallery, sublet spaces, and then a paper mill. So it had a hand paper mill that was persistent force, and all the other spaces sort of changed throughout time. And it's collective in the sense that our collective monies paid the lease, right, re-employment. So I began to make paper there, and quickly began to study both Eastern and Western hand paper. And the delineation between that, Eastern paper mainly being raw fiber, comes from Japanese, Chinese, Korean traditions using mostly paper mulberry, but other fibers as well. And then Western being rag paper. So as I was studying rag paper making, inevitably you begin to think about what to make, or what types of rags to use to make paper. One of the things that paper making, the sort of baseline philosophy that was given to me around paper is that it's under practice. So not a lot of people know about the craft, not a lot of people have access to the equipment, and or are really familiar with the history. And so it becomes obscure or academic. So it's really important to share that information. So from the very beginning, my teachers were excited to share recipes and excited to share ideas and fibers, and like, hey, I tried this, or hey, have you thought about? And so I passed that on in the same way. So the Green Door Studio and our paper mill there was very frequently like this space. It was full, kind of shoulder to shoulder with people making sheets of paper and having a good time and figuring out our own way through. So the first step in paper making, rag paper making, is to liberate the rag. So in this instance, this is a Marine Corps uniform. And this gentleman had brought in, he was not only a Red Sox baseball fan, but also a student at UMass Boston. Brought that in to turn into paper. And what I mean by that is, most of our textiles are made of plant-based fibers, and paper, by definition, is plant fiber. So whether it's cotton, linen, or hemp, those being the sort of three main plant-based fibers used in textiles, whatever is any of those three, it can be altered and transformed into sheets of paper, and in fact has many centuries of that tradition, that history. So we remove the buttons, the zippers, the Velcro, the non-fiber, and begin to break the weave of the fabric. And for me, this is one of the most exciting times, because then people are beginning to share some of the story of those fibers, to share a little bit about like where it came from, or who wore it, or what is the association. And so I should mention that most all of the people pictured in this slideshow are it's their fiber that they're turning into paper. And many of them are military veterans. Guy's wearing a Homeland Security shirt. Know that one? Does it say fighting terrorism since 1492? Y'all seen that one? It's a good one. And this gentleman is in Kentucky, taking his Marine Corps uniform, beginning to deconstruct and take apart and snip and tear. And you know, one of the things in the workshop that's really interesting about that moment is some people come in and that's all they do over the course of the entire day or 3 days or whatever it is. They sit there and cut and snip and pull and tear. And so it's a really great place for people to gather and come together. Then I take all of that cut up material, add it with water, and beat it into a pulp with a Hollander. So the Hollander beater, this one pictured here, was the one I was first trained on. And it's cast iron, probably weighs 750 pounds. It's a Valley Iron Works. It's before the company turned to Voith. It's a floating bed plate. It's a 1.5 pound beater, so 1.5 pound of fiber can be rendered into a pulp per load. It's heavy, it's awesome, I love it, it's great. This is another example. That one is huge. It's a Woods beater. It's a 3 pound beater, and that thing probably weighs closer to 2,000 pounds. Look at that thing. It's insane. There's another one that's stainless steel. That's a David Reyna 2 pound beater. Really nice one. On the left there. And how it works is simple mechanical, essentially a series of hammers on a wheel. So this is the roll. This is inside of the Hollander beater. And as the roll spins, it circulates the fiber-water mixture and breaks the weave. It breaks down. It reverses the milling process. So taking the fibers that are trapped in our clothing and releasing them into pulp form, as well as bruising them, scratching them, breaking them, creating more surface area on the fibers. So the problem that we quickly ran into with comic paper is we were stuck in the basement of this broom factory, and there are a ton of uniforms in this country. So we had to figure out a way to adapt and allow for the paper mill to go other places. So not just being restricted to northern New England on the 45th parallel, basically where nobody wants to travel half of the year, we were able to figure out a way to get it on the move. So this is the prototype or the first iteration of the portable Hollander beater built by Lee Scott McDonald. We call it the Oracle. This is about a 1 pound, 1.25 pound beater, and without the electric motor, it weighs 26 pounds. So from 2000 to 26 is a huge change. It changed everything. It totally enabled comic paper to exist as it does today. So the portable paper mill was launched in 2009. So 2 years after we got going, he was able to complete this. And we ditched the Guantanamo Bay orange and went for the banana yellow that you can see over here. I think that was a good move. So it is truly portable. There's a paper mill right there on the top of that vehicle in Salt Flats, Nevada. That is, that's all you need. You can set up a paper mill and you can break rag and make sheets. And it's really quite adaptable. This is its current state. So I stick it in a box and send it through the post. It can also be operated by bicycle. This is a really helpful way to engage people with hand paper making. It's a lot slower to do it that way. So then we take the pulp and we pull the sheet using a mold and decal. You all know this. So the mold and decal is just a simple wooden frame, captures the fiber along the water, pass through. The size of the mold will inform the size of the sheet. And then we couch our sheets of paper onto an interface, so we're transferring the sheet of paper from the mold onto a felt, or a pellon in this instance, allowing us to reuse the tool again and again and again. And we press the sheets, begins the drying process, pushes some of the water out, forces the fibers closer together. There's someone else's inventive hydraulic press. And this is the one that we employ frequently. The hippie press. and a little bit more of the military press. Yeah. And then we just hang it up to dry, like it's laundry. Hang it outside and it'll drip dry overnight. Restrained or unrestrained, it'll start to shrink and cockle and carry on its own character as a dried sheet. You can put it out in the sun to dry. Like this is Leonard in his Marine Corps dress uniform. He was Gunny. He was a Gunny Marine Corps, retired 20 years. So that's sort of the baseline process that we use.